Hi, scientists! Over the past several weeks, we have been learning all about force and motion. You've learned about push and pull and how we need different amounts, different strengths of push and pull to do certain things. You've learned about the importance of simple machines, a wheel and axle, a pulley, a wedge, a lever, a screw, an inclined plane, and how all of these simple machines can work alone or work together to help us do things in an easier way. But why is this so important? Why is it important to learn how force and motion affect our lives? Well, we're going to read another book today and find out a little bit more. So I pulled this book, Force and Motion, which you can see has gotten a lot of love. And I started looking at the table of contents. And I saw, what is a force? What is a motion? You guys know all about that. Energy and work. You know about the different types of energy and the amounts of energy we need to use to make things work. And we've learned all about these simple machines. But what really got me excited was this section here. People in science. Bicycle inventors. And I got to thinking, what does force and motion have to do with someone inventing a bicycle? So let's go ahead, flip to page 12 and find out. Bicycle inventors. A bike is a great machine that can take you to all kinds of places. But bicycles didn't always look the way they do today. The first bicycle was built in France in the 1790s. It had no pedals. You had to push it along with your feet. And because the front wheel did not turn, you could only go straight. Already, I see a simple machine. Look at that wheel and axle. And we've already talked about force and motion. You had to push with your feet, not like the bicycles we have today. In 1817, Carl van Daris made a bicycle. The front wheel of his bicycle could be turned, so you could steer it. But this wooden bicycle still had no pedals. A bicycle with pedals was made in 1839. It was built by Kirkpatrick Macmillan, a blacksmith in Scotland. Let's look at the caption for this photograph here. The front wheel of a high wheeler could be as high as 1.47 meters or 58 inches. Some riders of high wheelers joined cycling clubs and even wore uniforms. So different from today. Can you imagine wearing a uniform as you bike? In 1870, the first all-metal bicycle was made. This high-wheel bicycle was made in England by James Starley. Its pedals were joined to the axle of a huge front wheel. The back wheel was tiny. I wonder why that is. Look at this photo. Doesn't that look so strange compared to the bicycles we see all the time these days? Look at how huge that wheel is and how tiny this one is. Turning the pedals in a small circle made the huge front wheel turn. The bigger the front wheel, the farther the bike would go with each turn of the pedals. But it took a lot of effort to turn the pedals. High wheelers also were not very safe. They tipped over easily. Guys, look at this part here when it says, but it took a lot of effort. As a scientist, I know that means it took a lot of force to push the pedals to make that great big wheel turn. In the 1880s, the safety bicycle was invented. Its wheels were the same size. It also had a chain from the pedals to the rear wheel. This was the first modern bike. What this has taught me is that in order for the bike to be invented and to be changed over time to become better and better, scientists, inventors, they had to think of force and motion. They had to think of how to make this bike better so that less force could be used, so that it was a safer bike that wouldn't fall. They had to use simple machines to make a more complicated machine. Look at that wheel and axle. Would a bike work without a wheel and axle? No. Let's go ahead and read about another invention that uses simple machines as well as force and energy. A water wheel. That might be a new term, but I'm sure many of you have seen something similar to this. Maybe not in real life, but maybe in a movie or a book. So let's find out about them. How water wheels work. Why does water in a stream flow? Have you ever thought about that? In the canals we have here in Florida, or in the rivers, or in a small stream, why does the water flow? Why doesn't it just stay still? If I pour water into a cup, it doesn't move. So why does it move in a river or a stream? Gravity makes the water move downhill. The moving water has energy and can be used to do work. Wow, I'm making a little bit of a connection right now to when we were learning about energy and resources, where we get energy, and renewable energy. Because right now I'm learning that the moving water has energy and can be used to do work. Do you think those things are related? Let's find out. Water wheels are machines that use the energy of flowing water. A water wheel has paddles sticking out from its outer rim. The wheel is attached to an axle. That's some vocabulary, I know. The force of moving water hits the wheel's paddles and makes the wheel and its axle turn. Water wheels were once used to power many different kinds of mills. A grist mill ground grain into flour. One large stone inside the mill stayed still, and grain was placed on it. Another large stone above it was attached to the axle of the water wheel. When the axle turned, this stone turned too. As the stones rubbed together, the grain between the two stones was ground into flour. What simple machine is part of a water wheel? I know you guys know the answer to that because you heard those key words pop out when I was reading. What simple machine is used in this water wheel? That's right, a wheel and axle. This is so amazing. In this page, we've learned how long ago, not something we still use today, but long ago, a water wheel was used to make work easier, to take grain and crush it so that it was flour that could be used for baking. So I want you guys to be thinking now, how do simple machines make our lives easier? And how do inventors use simple machines? This week, you are going to become inventors as well, and thinking about how you can become inventors. So take a moment and think to yourself before you answer the discussion post. How do simple machines make our lives easier? And how do inventors use simple machines as well as force and motion? I can't wait to see your responses.